So on the topic of conversations involving impeachment, let's talk about Justice Janet Protasiewicz for a second here. Have you received a report from that panel of former justices that are investigating criteria for
Well, it's
impeachment?
really informal advice. I know that the left has tried to make it into some kind of cause célèbre. The amazing thing is, for the critics who say that we spend all this money on legal fees, almost 100% of the money is defending ourselves from frivolous lawsuits filed by activists funded by George Soros. So that's really why we end up spending a lot of money on these lawsuits. So it's another prime example that the justices are just giving me advice as to what I can do to make sure that I follow the Constitution.
But have they given
They
you
have
that
not given me that
advice?
advice yet. No, I'm
they
still
haven't.
waiting. I have to talk to them. I have not done that yet. But I think the most important thing for us to remember is that Justice Protasiewicz should recuse. Just take a scenario where somebody's running for local judge, and in the middle of running for local county judge, there's a murder in the town. And the judge begins by saying, oh, it looks to me like this person is totally guilty. Anybody who's not an idiot says this person should go to prison for life. Then they get elected and they sit on the case. I think most people would look and say, there's no way that person can be fair because they prejudge the case. Whether or not the person is guilty or innocent, they have a right to an unbiased judge and a fair process. Well, Justice Protasiewicz has already prejudged the case just like the person would have had they told people that the murderer should go to prison.
But she has not said how she would rule on that.
She has prejudged the case by basically saying that everybody agrees with X, Y, or Z. That's no different than prejudging a case in any other circumstance. It's the basic principle of the law. If you think about the scales of justice, the entire idea is that she is blindfolded because you're supposed to have an impartial system. If somebody starts out a case by saying that certain things are obvious, they're not impartial. So I think that's clear that she needs to recuse herself. If she doesn't, the legislature will take the appropriate actions to make sure that the laws are followed.
You've indicated that the report from this panel would not be made public. You just did talk about how, you've indicated that the report would not be made public.
It's not really a report, it's just informal advice.
Okay, you've indicated that advice would not be made public, so why shouldn't the public see that?
Well, it's no different than right now. People give me advice all the time. People come in and lobby me on bills. Friends talk to me. I call people who are experts on topics and ask their advice on a bill that I'm going to take up or on a topic that I don't necessarily understand. It's no different. So, every time you call a legislator, it doesn't become a public conversation. You don't record it and then release it to the media later, right? If you put it in writing, it usually is an open records request and you can have a public document. But I don't think that's why we'll have some kind of a formal report. If we do, and it's a public document, of course, we'll follow the law. But I think it's more likely to be informal advice.
Well, you're the one who announced this. I'm sure you don't go around announcing all the time that somebody is asking for advice on a bill or you're talking to a lobbyist. So it was a public announcement, and now the public wants to know for somebody that they elected what these two former justices are saying.
Well, and we'll see once they give me the informal advice. I mean, we'll go through the entire process to determine what's appropriate. Like I say, it all starts with a very basic idea that Janet Protasiewicz should recuse herself. If she does what is common sense and is practical, then most of the rest of it falls by the wayside. It never even becomes a need to have discussions.